Hare Krishna. I hope you have been having a wonderful day, and I am here as promised to continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavatam. And today we are starting with chapter 5. The title of the chapter is Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Text 1. Suta Uvacha अथ तं सुखमासीन उपासीनं ब्रह्मश्रवाः देवर्षिः प्राह विपर्षिं वीणापाणिः स्मयन्निव. Translation. Suta Goswami said, "Thus the sage amongst the gods, Narada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the rishi amongst the Brahmanas, Vyasadeva." Purport. Narada was smiling because he well knew the great sage Vyasadeva and the cause of his disappointment. As he will explain gradually, Vyasadeva's disappointment was due to insufficiency in presenting the signs of devotional service. Narada knew the defect and it was confirmed by the position of Vyasa. Text 2. Narada Uvacha Parasharya Mahabhaga Bhavatah Katchindatmana Paritushyati Sharira Atma Manas Eva Va. Translation. Addressing Vyasadeva, the son of Parashara, Narada inquired, "Are you satisfied by identifying with the body or the mind as objects of self-realization?" Purport. This was a hint by Narada to Vyasadeva regarding the cause of his despondency. Vyasadeva, as a descendant of Parashara, a greatly powerful sage, had the privilege of having a great parentage which should not have given Vyasadeva cause for despondency. Being a great son of a great father, he should not have identified the self with the body or the mind. Ordinary men with a poor fund of knowledge can identify the body as self or the mind as self, but Vyasadeva should not have done so. One cannot be cheerful by nature unless one is factually seated in self-realization, which is transcendental to the material body and mind. Text 3. Jigyasitam susampannapi te mahadbhutam kritvan bharatam yasatvam sarvartha paribrahmitam. Translation. Your enquiries were full and your studies were also well fulfilled, and there is no doubt that you have prepared a great and wonderful work, the Mahabharata, which is full of all kinds of Vedic sequences elaborately explained. Purport. The despondency of Vyasadeva was certainly not due to his lack of sufficient knowledge, because as a student he had fully inquired about the Vedic literatures, as a result of which the Mahabharata is compiled with full explanation of the Vedas. Text 4. Jigyasitam dhitam cha brahma yattat sanatanam tathapi shochasi atmanam akratartha eva prabho. Translation. You have fully delineated the subject of impersonal Brahman as well as the knowledge derived therefrom. Why should you be despondent in spite of all this, thinking that you are undone, my dear Prabhu? Purport. The Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra compiled by Sri Vyasadeva is the full deliberation of the impersonal absolute feature, and it is accepted as the most exalted philosophical exposition in the world. It covers the subject of eternity and the methods are scholarly. So, there cannot be any doubt about the transcendental scholarship of Vyasadeva. So why should he lament? Text 5. Vyasa uvacha अस्त्येव मे सर्वमिदं त्वयोक्तं तथापि नात्मा परितुष्यते मे तन्मूलम् अव्यक्तम् अगाध बोधं पृच्छामहे त्वात्म भावात्मभूतम्. Translation. Sri Vyasadeva said, "All you have said about me is perfectly correct. Despite all this, I am not pacified. I therefore question you about the root cause of my dissatisfaction, for you are a man of unlimited knowledge due to your being the offspring of one, that is Brahma, who is self-born, that is without mundane father and mother." Purport. In the material world, everyone is engrossed with the idea of identifying the body or the mind with the self. As such, all knowledge disseminated in the material world is related either with the body or with the mind, and that is the root cause of all despondencies. This is not always detected, even though one may be the greatest erudite scholar in materialistic knowledge. It is good, therefore, to approach a personality like Narada to solve the root cause of all despondencies. Why Narada should be approached is explained below. Sa vai bhavan ved samast guhya mupasito yat purushah puranaha paravaresho manasaiva vishwam srujatya vatyati gunair Sangaha. Translation. My Lord, everything that is mysterious is known to you because you worship the creator and destroyer of the material world and the maintainer of the spiritual world, the original personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to the three modes of material nature. Purport. A person who is 100% engaged in the service of the Lord is the emblem of all knowledge. Such a devotee of the Lord, in full perfection of devotional service, is also perfect by the qualification of the personality of Godhead. As such, the eightfold perfections of mystic power, Ashtasiddhi, constitute very little of his godly opulence. A devotee like Narada can act wonderfully by his spiritual perfection, which every individual is trying to attain. Srila Narada is a 100% perfect living being, although not equal to the personality of Godhead. Text 7. Tvam paryatanarka iva triloki mantascharo vayuri vatmasakshi Paravare brahmani dharmato vrataiha snatasya me nyunamalam vichakshva. Translation. Like the sun, your goodness can travel everywhere in the three worlds, and like the air, you can penetrate the internal region of everyone. As such, you are as good as the all-pervasive Supersoul. Please therefore find out the deficiency in me despite my being absorbed in transcendence under disciplinary regulations and vows. Purport. Transcendental realization, pious activities, worshipping the deities, charity, mercifulness, non-violence, and studying the scriptures under strict disciplinary regulations are always helpful. Text 8. Shri Narada Uvacha Bhavatanu prayam yasho bhagavato malam yenai vaso natushyet manye taddarshanam khilam. Translation. Sri Narada said, "You have not actually broadcast the sublime and spotless glories of the personality of Godhead. That philosophy which does not satisfy the transcendental senses of the Lord is considered worthless." Purport: the eternal relation of an individual soul with the Supreme Soul Personality of Godhead is constitutionally one of being the eternal servitor of the Eternal Master. The Lord has expanded Himself as living beings in order to accept loving service from them, and this alone can satisfy both the Lord and the living beings. Such a scholar as Vyasadeva has completed many expansions of the Vedic literatures ending with the Vedanta philosophy, but none of them have been written directly glorifying the personality of Godhead. Dry philosophical speculations, even on the transcendental subject of the Absolute, have very little attraction without directly dealing with the glorification of the Lord. The personality of Godhead is the last word in transcendental realization. The Absolute realized as impersonal Brahman or localized Supersoul, Paramatma, is less productive of transcendental bliss than the supreme personal realization of His glories. The compiler of the Vedanta Darshana is Vyasadeva himself, yet he is troubled although he is the author. So, what sort of transcendental bliss can be derived by the leaders and listeners of Vedanta, which is not explained directly by Vyasadeva, the author? Herein arises the necessity of explaining Vedanta Sutra in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam by the self-same author. Text 9. Yatha dharmadayasartha munivaryanu na tatha vasudevasya mahima hyanuvarnitaha. Translation: although great sage, you have very broadly described the four principles beginning with religious performances, you have not described the glories of the Supreme Personality, Vasudeva. Purport: the prompt diagnosis of Sri Narada is at once declared. The root cause of the despondency of Vyasadeva was his deliberate avoidance of glorifying the Lord in his various editions of the Puranas. He has certainly, as a matter of course, given descriptions of the glories of the Lord, that is Sri Krishna, but not as many as given to religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These four items are by far inferior to engagement in the devotional service of the Lord. Sri Vyasadeva, as the authorized scholar, knew very well this difference, and still, instead of giving more importance to the better type of engagement, namely devotional service to the Lord, he had more or less improperly used his valuable time, and thus he was despondent. From this it is clearly indicated that no one can be pleased substantially without being engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, this fact is clearly mentioned. After liberation, which is the last item in the line of performing religiosity, etc., one is engaged in pure devotional service. This is called the stage of self-realization or the Brahma Bhuta stage. After attainment of this Brahma Bhuta stage, one is satisfied. But satisfaction is the beginning of transcendental bliss. One should progress by attaining neutrality and equality in the relative world. And passing this stage of equanimity, one is fixed in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is the instruction of the personality of Godhead in the Bhagavad Gita. The conclusion is that in order to maintain the status quo of the Brahma Bhuta stage, as also to increase the degree of transcendental realization, Narada recommended to Vyasadeva that he, Vyasadeva, should now eagerly and repeatedly describe the path of devotional service. This would cure him from gross despondency. Text 10. We will continue the reading of text 10 in the evening segment. I will put a halt to this reading now. While we are reading this, one thought that crossed my mind was actually, the less intelligent have been in one way spared of going through all those Vedic literatures and Puranas that are not really ultimately giving out the real message. So by reading Bhagavad Gita and then Srimad Bhagavatam, what is being revealed here is this is like the real essence of all that was written before this. So if we can really read this and understand and get the essence of it, then we have actually got the best that there is. So with this, let us end our reading for this morning. Have a wonderful, conscious, productive day ahead, and we will see each other again in the evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.